Welcome to Share Talk, the only podcast where investors come first.
Today we have Gervaise Heddle, who is the CEO of Greatland Gold Plc, ticker GGP on AIM. They've recently entered into an agreement with Newmont Mining on their Ernest Giles project in Australia. Hello, Gervaise.
Hi, John. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Obviously, you've had some news out this morning about your HAVIERON project, so you've expanded the land by Paterson East. Do you want to give us an overview of what that RNS entails?
Yeah, absolutely, John. Well, as you mentioned in your introduction, we have a very large project, some 1,800 square kilometres out northeast of Laverton, called the Ernest Giles Project, and we recently entered into an agreement with Newmont over that project, a 6-month agreement where they are doing, in essence, they have a right of first refusal to joint venture or buy the project, and also they're conducting some of their own proprietary exploration work over that property. The Havieron project is another significant project for us, and now it's taking on more of a strategic importance because we've just doubled our land holding in that area. So if I just remind people, the Havieron project we announced in September last year that we'd reached an agreement to buy that project. It's a very interesting project, an IOCG target with demonstrated copper and gold mineralisation. And as part of sort of following up on that, we've been looking around the general region, and we realised that there are a number of similar IOCG targets that were actually sitting in open ground to the north of Havieron. So we've just made an application on those, and we think that there are a number of interesting IOCG targets there as well.
Okay, and do you want to just give us a flavour of who's based locally as well?
Yeah, sure. So look, it's a very busy area. It's been an area of increasing interest. NEWCREST has been there for a long time with the Telfer mine, which is one of the most prolific gold mines in the country. It's produced over 27 million ounces of gold to date. But that's a mine that potentially, is getting harder to mine, and I'm sure that NEWCREST would be interested in other new gold deposits in the area. You've also got Rio in the area. Shortly before we announced the acquisition of Havieron, Rio took the ground immediately to our north, and so we've now taken ground immediately to their north. So we now have Rio hemmed in on two sides, and the way we look at it is that basically on that sort of east part of the Paterson area, there's a number of IOCG style targets, some more advanced than others. Some have had previous work, and we're getting some of the benefit of that previous work. Some are quite advanced, such as Havieron. But there seems to be maybe a dozen or more good targets there. And now sort of probably Rio has about half of them on their ground, and we have about half of them on our ground, as it's split between our two tenements there. So if you look at the map on our website, you can see where the two tenements lie in relation to each other, and Rio as well. And look, I think we've got a nice strategic position in that region now that gives us a lot of very interesting sort of copper gold type of plays.
And are you funded to complete all those targets yourselves already, or will you need to go back to the market?
Well, at this stage, the work we have on schedule, the work we'll be looking at doing at Havieron will be some basic work up front. Our team has been working on assembling all the historical data, and there's a lot of historical data there. Sure. And also in the region generally, and we're working on getting that data. And then the next stage is to do some basic geophysics. So on both the Havieron property and this Paterson Range East property. So, basic gravity work, etc., and, which is a useful technique for these type of targets. And so there's a lot of relatively low-cost work that we can do there for the remainder of the year. And then I think as we look at starting to drill, drilling on the Havieron project itself, it's fairly deep. So we'd be open to, joint venturing that or looking at other ways to fund that. And then, look, as for the other targets, we really don't know what we're dealing with there. They are early stage exploration targets, but we think judging on the historical data that we've seen from people who have been active in the area 10, 20 years ago, we think that there's sufficient merit there to to take this ground and start working up these targets.
So, I mean, investors are probably looking at what you've done with Ernest Giles now, and how you expanded your land grab there before you announced the deal with Newmont. Would it be right to say that you're probably looking towards a similar business model with Havieron?
Well, as I was just saying, John, I think that, look, we would be very open to the possibility of doing some sort of joint venture or earning on these properties. But look, at this point, we're just focusing on the early stage exploration, advancing them to a certain point as per our business model, where we really identify areas that we think are of interest, and ideally we take them to a certain point before a larger party comes in and can take them to the next level. So I think Havieron's a little bit earlier on than Ernest Giles was, even though we have demonstrated gold and copper mineralisation there at the Havieron target itself. But nevertheless, we're sort of working towards that general business plan.
Okay, and is there anything else you'd like to add today, Gervaise?
No, look, it's obviously exciting times for us with the Newmont agreement at Ernest Giles, and with hopefully a lot more activity now in the Paterson region. But look, we still have a few things up our sleeves, and hopefully we'll be able to update investors on them in the near term.
Okay, so thank you there. That is Gervaise Heddle, CEO of Greatland Gold Plc, ticker GGP on AIM. Thank you, Gervaise.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website for more news and other podcasts at www.share-talk.com.